Jim here with Prevelo bikes. Today we're going to show you how to assemble your Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 bicycle. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is open up the box and pull the bike out. I'm just going to cut the tape. And cut off the straps. Alright. So in your box, you're going to have your small parts box, and of course your bike. Now to assemble the bike, you have to remove all the packing material. From my opinion, you're actually going to spend more time removing the packing material than building the actual bike. Packing material off the bike, you're going to want to open up your parts box. In the box, you're going to have your pedals, set of reflectors, a 5mm Allen key, a pedal wrench, and then of course your assembly instructions and owner's manual. For the owner's manual, we're going to set that aside for now. So to assemble the bike, the first thing that I like to do is install the handlebars. Since they're dangling, it'll make the rest of the install much easier. So the stem faceplate is going to need to be removed. So these bolts are already loose. I'm just going to unscrew the 4 bolts. If they're a little tight, you might need to use your Allen key to do this. Go ahead and remove the faceplate. I like to leave the bolts in the faceplate. It makes it easier to put back on. Now we're going to want to place the handlebar into position. Now the handlebar should have the brake levers pointed ahead. You'll see the logo on the front. The front brake cable is going to be in front of the rear. And the rear should go around the bike and down into the top tube. Okay. Sometimes you'll see the handlebar twisted around or backwards, but you're going to want it positioned with the cables just like you see here. Now I'm going to lift the faceplate with all 4 bolts and then just slowly finger tighten each bolt into place. This is just to get the thread started. Okay. Now, whenever you tighten a stem, you're going to want to tighten the bolts in an X pattern or a star pattern, similar to if you were going to tighten the wheels down on your car. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can do it in any orientation you want as long as you follow that X pattern. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to start snugging the bolt up. And the second thing that you're going to want to do while you do this is there's a gap on the top and the bottom of the stem. You want to keep that gap even as you tighten. So I like to get the first 2 bolts as equal as possible so you can view it from the side and make sure the gap is the same. Right now I can note that the gap on the bottom is a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to get that bolt a little bit tighter, and now it's evened out. Okay, now I'm going to move to my 3rd bolt. And then my 4th bolt. And now, before I do tighten it, I want to make sure that the handlebar is oriented the correct way. So the brake levers should be at about 45 degrees from level. Right now they're pointing a little bit too far down, so I'm just going to rotate the bar a little back. The bar itself also has a bend, so sometimes you'll see handlebars rotated really far back. That's not going to be proper. So we want to have the handlebar to where the bend kind of goes up, and the brake levers are at about 45 degrees. Now with the handlebar where I want it, I'm just going to go in and tighten the bolts. So I started on a different bolt this time, but I'm still following the X pattern. You can also see that I changed position with the Allen wrench to now use the longer end as a handle, so I get more leverage when I tighten. So the torque rating on this stem is 8 Newton meters. It's pretty tight. You can over tighten this, and if you over tighten it, you'll basically break the stem. It's very rare for that to happen, but it is possible. You just want to get these bolts pretty tight, but you don't have to go totally crazy to where you're going to like pull out a hammer because you want to get them so tight. Everything's nice and tight. Just one last check. New handlebars installed. Now we're ready to install our pedals. Now to do this, I like to flip the bike upside down so that it's resting on the seat and the handlebars. Now with our pedals ready, pedals are right and left specific. So each pedal is going to be identified with an R and an L for right and left. That's because left pedals are opposite threaded. So instead of your typical righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, the pedal is going to be lefty-tighty and righty-loosey. So with the left pedal in my hand, you can insert it into the crank arm and you can start the thread just by rotating the pedal to the left. The other thing that you can do is actually back pedal the crank and it will thread the pedal in. The same thing with the right. So when you put the right pedal in, you can turn the spindle to the right to tighten it, or again, you can back pedal the bike. So once I have them both started, I have to just grab them and back pedal. This will simultaneously thread both pedals into the crank arm. It makes it a little bit easier and faster. If it's easier for you, you can also still do it one at a time. Now with our wrench, get it on the wrench flats, and it's really difficult if you just try to just tighten this because it's going to want to pedal the bike. So what I do is use that to my advantage, right? You can hold the back wheel and push it up against the crank. So one direction is just going to rotate the wheel. The other direction is going to want to rotate the crank. So if you push the wheel while you also push on the wrench, it makes that pedal get nice and tight. Okay? You could do the same thing with the other side. So push up against the wheel while you push up against the wrench. It gets that pedal nice and tight. The pedals are installed. Right. So now that the bike is fully assembled, we just want to do a quick safety check. So we want to grab the brakes and make sure they're functioning as they should. Make sure the wheels rotate without rubbing the brakes. So it doesn't rub the rim, doesn't rub the tire. Okay, give the tires a pinch, make sure they're firm at the touch. So the PSI rating on these tires is between 40 and 65. I usually put them around 50 to keep them nice and firm. And then the last thing we want to do is just a quick nut and bolt check. So we already tightened the pedals and the handlebars, but we want to make sure the handlebars don't twist from side to side and the seat doesn't twist from side to side. Okay? Now that you've done a safety check, now we can get your little one sized on the bike. So the only thing that you really need to adjust on this bike is going to be the seat height. So right now you can see that it's nice and high, and this has a quick release to adjust. So you can just open the lever, and when you adjust this, if you have a new rider, usually what we do is when your child is on the seat, you want their feet to be flat on the ground. Okay? A more experienced rider, you can start to get it to where the balls of their feet are on the ground, and that will give them proper leg extension, which makes them able to put down more power while they're pedaling. But to note, as your child grows and you start getting the seat higher, there is a minimum insertion mark on the seat post. So even though the post is this long, you can't use the whole post. So you need it inserted at least to the point of the insertion mark. That's just for safety. It makes it so that when there's pressure on it, the seat can't bend back. So there has to be enough post inserted into the frame. Okay? Now wherever you have the seat height-wise, you just want to make sure the nose is lined up with the top tube. Okay? And tighten it down. And then if you find when you tighten it that you can twist the seat, okay, you open the lever on the other side, there's a nut. You can just turn the nut righty-tighty and then tighten the seat post clamp down. Make sure it doesn't move. And you're good to go. Now that everything's sized for your little one, they're ready to ride. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.